Right, so we made it to work just fine. Stella's waking up, and what are we looking at when we walk into the shop? So we've been working on this old Land Cruiser for the last couple days, doing a head gasket and tune up, make it past EQ, and I drained all the oil out of it last night, and half of it's on the floor. What happened? I don't know. I wanted to get the milky oil from the head gasket repair out, and a lot of it's on the floor, so I must have missed something. Oh, let's clean this up and get to work. Okay, as you may notice, there is no FJ-60 Land Cruiser in my main shop bay. It's now outside. Resting outside here in the sunshine, bathing, getting warm. A little history on this. This customer has been coming to me for a while. We did a clutch a couple years ago. We did a electronic ignition conversion to HEI when the Toyota, what do you call that? The Toyota points type amplifier ignition failed. The igniter failed, and I could not find a replacement. This engine is very similar to a 6-cylinder Chevy. I believe they copied them. So I did the HEI conversion, and I had to reroute some of the hoses and do an oil filter modification to make it all fit. That's working good. We got the timing set. We have the, it's not a DGAV, it's a Weber carburetor, but it is not progressive. It's a dual 38 millimeter, and both throttles open at the same time. I forget the model number of that, but it is a dual 38 millimeter carburetor. Both bores open at once. We've got new belts, some new hoses, some new clamps, new exhaust gaskets. Everything is oil change, of course. We flushed out all the nasty milkshake oil. Looked like mayonnaise in there. Cleaned as much stuff out as we could. Let's just see if it starts up. First of all, we got our beeper going on here, the old Toyota beeper. This vehicle is a 1985 and originally came with a choke. The choke is no longer used because the Weber has an electric choke. Think of that, 1985, still had a manual choke. We got a horn, and it is a 4-speed. Turn the key here. The key is, check this out, so old, it's very thin. I'm afraid I'm going to break it off. It's been in this ignition a lot. I'm going to turn the key. I'm not even going to use the gas. I'm so confident it'll start up. Idling there at, what is that, about 500-600. Give it a little gas. There we go. One of the tasks that I was chosen to do is get this to pass EQ. You can see we got great oil pressure. Battery's good. Fuel's good. And of course, temperature's good. And that actually is, going back to the DEQ, the prior owner stripped off the air injection, the air pump, the EGR, everything. So there's no emission stuff. This would technically fail if a DEQ employee was to do an underhood inspection. This carburetor would not pass. And if he knew that all the air injection stuff was removed, he'd black flag it. It does have a Kelly converter that works possible. It's really old. So I'm hoping it passes, because the tags are way expired. So, all right, I'm going to take this thing for a drive. You are welcome to come along with me on that test drive of this 1985 FJ-60, but that's going to be the next video. This is going to wrap up this one. Thanks for following along, and wish you guys a happy day. I'm really happy this thing is running. And it's running really well. Listen to the exhaust. Hear that? Just purring along. This thing's been through a lot, mechanically wise, but it's still kicking after all these years. How old is it, you might say? It's almost 40 years old, is that right? 85 to almost 25? Yeah, wow. That's crazy to think about that. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video. Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the 2-Stroke Turbo channel, where you may see anything automotive related and or Stella the shop dog related. She loves having her eyes scratched. And did you know that if you scratch a dog right here on the tops of their feet, and their hocks right here, they can't help but completely stretch out. They love that. It happens on all types of dogs. Usually she ends up on her back because I guess that feels really good. You just kind of scratch right there and they just like, you're not camera shy, are you? What are we doing? What are we doing, Stel? Come on. Let's show the people. We got this 1985 FJ-60 sitting in their lot. We've done a lot of work to it. And I promised you that we would take it for a drive. It's a pretty old, classic, do I say classic SUV? It's one of the first ones, 1985. Pretty neat. It has a 4.2 liter straight six engine that's carbureted. And originally, the carburetor had a manual choke. The manual choke carburetor is long gone. It now has a Weber 38 millimeter two barrel. So two 38 millimeters that are not progressive. They're synchronized together. So it is a dual throat carburetor that both throats open at once for all that torque. It's a 2F engine, if you didn't see that already. And I've done a lot of work to it. We did a radiator a few years ago. We did a clutch a few years ago. We did an ignition system rehab, changing it to HEI when we couldn't get the Toyota igniter. The igniter went out and a used igniter was 500 bucks. And I was like, that's ridiculous. So we put on a HEI, which is better, coil on the cap there. And then we had a head gasket issue. We had milkshake oil. So we flattened the head, tested all the valves. It has fantastic compression, 180 psi almost every cylinder. I think one was 178, so pretty even compression. Really neat old rig. Let's walk through a couple things here. It's got the old-fashioned chrome door handles. You don't see that anymore. Chrome bumpers, chrome door handles, wind-up windows. It does have an aftermarket stereo. There's a tweeter there and a bass speaker. Here is the choke handle. When you pull the choke out, that light would light up to let you know the choke was on. That's how old this 85 Toyota Land Cruiser is. The key is key. The key is key. You can see how thin that is. It's just razor thin. I'm afraid I'm going to snap that off, but it has a multi-function gauge with your oil, temp, fuel, and volts. And it also has an extra light there that tells you, turn the key on, just to get your attention. If the alternator quits charging and you don't notice the gauge, the light will come on, which is nice. Has a tachometer that only goes to 4,000 RPM. This thing is not a high revving engine. It really makes peak power about 3,000. And the old speedometer with the 55 lit up there when most speed limits were 55 miles an hour. It does have air conditioning, which is nice. Has an upgraded radio. It's a 4-speed and nothing else. No airbags, no crumple zones, no seat belts that pre-tension, no crash bars, just a simple cloth interior. The seats have covers. I'm going to show you what the rear looks like. Look at that. Beautiful. Very simplistic, very utilitarian. Has carpet on the floor, but really nice. Headliner's in great shape. It's been repainted. It was this lighter silver and now it is a gray. And unfortunately the gray is failing in some spots, especially here around the back. Oh, it has a 2-part tailgate. You've got the top part that lifts up and then you've got the tailgate that lifts down. Isn't that cool? It's original color. Just like the old days. Doesn't have a 3rd row seat. Does have a rear wiper, has intermittent wipers, and looks like a little damage there. The customer taped up his lens and the gas has somewhat ruined the paint there when it overflowed. It is 4-wheel drive, did I mention that? It has leaf spring solid axle rear, leaf spring solid axle front. So, okay, enough me yapping on this thing. Let's just take it for a quick cold drive around the block. I think you're really going to like it. And I did forget one option. It has 7-inch round sealed beam headlights and headlight washers. Tow hook, chrome bumpers, and of course a headlight washer on this side too. This is where Toyota was starting to get smart, and they bulged out the turn signals so that you can see the turn signal somewhat from the side. I think that's really neat. Pretty cool rig. Let's fire it up. I'm gonna give the gas one little pump, and shouldn't have gave it a pump. As I thought, didn't need to be pumped. So we're sitting here idling. We're going to drop her down into gear. So we've got the door closed, e-brake off. Reverse is down here. It's a 4-speed, I think I mentioned that. And we are utilizing our power steering, power brakes. First gear is up. And we got to open our gate. Oh, doesn't have a quick ratio steering, that's for sure, but steers nice and light. I'm going to put it in neutral. Let me open the gate. Okay, so if you wanted to go four-wheeling, you have your instructions right there as to how the transfer case works. That's actuated by this shift lever. We're not going to go four-wheeling. We're going to two-wheel around the neighborhood. So we'll put it in first gear and make sure there's nobody coming. We don't get T-boned by a Mack truck roaring down our street. Light and easy. It does have a hydraulic clutch and power brakes, so it's very easy to drive. Really good torque, as you might expect from that 2F engine with good compression. I'm just going to do a loop turn around here. Oh, what a nice rig. Very smooth, very easy to drive. No creaks, no rattles. Steering is power, but again, not designed to be a quick ratio, which is fine. Bumps are what you'd expect for having solid axles and leaf springs. And I'm just going to nose it on in here. What a great car. Really nice. Back in neutral. Brake on. Stella, the shop dog, what do you think of that FJ-60 Land Cruiser? It's a good looking rig. Really neat. Good job, Toyota. Thanks for holding on to a design and making it last 40 some years. Pretty awesome.